I'm going to start with this one over here. You've probably heard of the Black Book of Carmarthen. You might not have heard of, there's a White Book as well, the White Book of Rutherch, which was written in Strata, Florida in about 1350, which contains, among other things, the oldest text of the Mabinogion. But in the White Book there's a section called Llamain Waionis Prydain. Here are the names of the island of Britain. And it starts by saying, Cyntaf enw a fi ar ynys hon. It starts off by saying that the first name that this island ever bore was Carmarthen, Merthin's community. Well, the word class is interesting. It starts off meaning a group of disciples around a spiritual leader, and then in early Welsh it comes to mean a monastery, and then later on in medieval times it comes to mean the lands belonging to a monastery, so like sacred land. So class Merthin, okay, it can either be Merthin's community or Merthin's sacred land. But anyway, in what the White Book says, it says the first name that this island ever had before it was occupied and settled was Class Merthin. So if it was before it was occupied and settled, you know, who called it by that name, and who was Merthin, and who were his community if the island wasn't settled at that point? So here we are, here's Merthin as the tutelary spirit of the island of Britain, come out of Otherworld. You can see he's come out of Otherworld because he's sitting in front of a barrow, or a cromlech. It's got the door open, so it's actually in live contact with Otherworld, so he's just come out of that. And he's talking to his community, who are, of course, the creatures of the island of Britain. So you've got the sort of main songsters of the island of Britain sitting up there in the trees, the thrush, the blackbird and the robin, prophesying the future of the island of Britain. And in the pool in front of him you've got the salmon, which is, in Welsh traditions, the oldest living animal. And it's the salmon of wisdom. And it's gained its wisdom by eating nuts off the nut tree here, because before farming came to Britain, the people that lived here, their main staple was hazelnuts, so you know, a diet of hazelnuts is a characteristic of the original inhabitants of the island of Britain, and so they understand the land best. Don't ask me what the foxglove and the primrose signify. They did signify something, but I've forgotten what it was. So anyway, there we are. That's Merthin as tutelary spirit of Britain. If we then look at this next one here, the death of Robin Hood. I mean, we've all seen like Hollywood epics on Robin Hood, but as they usually bear absolutely no resemblance to the original stories that are loved so much, there's maybe lots of people here that don't know the story of the death of Robin Hood, so I'll just quickly recap it. Robin Hood, when he got a bit older, he got a few health problems, which the doctor diagnosed bloodletting, which was fashionable treatment in those days. So he went to the Nottingham General Hospital, which was a convent run by nuns, and as it happened, the abbess of the convent was the Sheriff of Nottingham's sister. So she said to her brother, they got a famous guest coming in, patient coming in, so he had a few words with her, and as a result of that, when she was bloodletting him, she opened his veins much too much, so he bled to death. This is a bucket of blood here. And but when he realises he's dying, I can never recount this without a tear coming to my eye, so you'll have to sort of let me off. But anyway, he pulls his bow up and shoots his last arrow out through the narrow window of his dank cell into the sunlit greenwood beyond. And that's little John holding him up there. And the arrow is his soul. And here we've got Merthin, the tutelary spirit of the island of Britain, waiting to welcome his soul to the greenwood. Right, can we move on to the next one here? And oh yes, no, I think we'll have to look at this one first, because this is, you know, the power of the greenwood, the kind of eternal paradisial life of the Greenwood. And here we actually have like a modern day picture of a real wood. This is Oxshott Heath, near where I was brought up, which were really stately pine forest, really. It's all been cut down now. But, and you could just like feel the power of the kind of trees around you when you're in it, sort of a subliminal throb of life, you know, and as I say here, the sort of power of the living power of the wood itself sort of dwarfed the human beings that had temerity to walk amidst it. And here we got dear old Nuruddin appearing again with, this time he's having it's called Conversation, this picture, so he's having a chat with Jesus here, the Good Shepherd, who's, you know, like all shepherds, he's out on the Black Mountain, and they're on Troll Gugu, overlooking Gwynfer. This is Gwynfer down here, and it looks a bit washed out. That's because the reference I used for it was taken in February, so it's a nice day in February. But yeah, and they're discussing the ownership of the soul of the island, discussing ownership of the soul of Wales, and maybe Jesus is saying, if you bow down and worship me, all this can be yours. And maybe Nuruddin is saying, oh, I thought it was mine already. But I think they're going to come to an agreement, understanding, a sort of mutual accommodation. So I think the conversation's going to work out all right in the end. Alternatively, if you thought it might be an illustration of the second temptation in Matthew and in Luke, perhaps you mightn't be very far wrong from that either. So it's down to you really. What else have I got useful have I got to say about this?
Do you want to tell them what the temptation was?
No, it's the well-known three temptations, isn't it? You know, that Jesus had after when he was in the wilderness. Right, so what next? I think we'll go over here next. This is it's a view of Llandilo looking west. It's a lovingly faithful view of Llandilo, painted from the railway line. Admittedly, it's looking west. West is the country of where the sun goes to at night, where the sun gets swallowed up by darkness. It's the direction of darkness and death, the west. People have gone west, you know. And, well, you've got God coming out of the west onto Llandilo. You may know he's actually sort of drawn up short of the town, as a matter of fact. He's a little bit back. He's towards Carmarthen there. You may notice that there's no reflection of God's war machine in the river. So, but it's not really about Llandilo. Llandilo is representing Wales in general. Then it's sort of the impending sort of doom or destruction or annihilation of Wales. But then it's not just Wales either. It's talking about the West. It's the threats hanging over the West. You know, if we don't get ourselves sorted out, and you know, then this is what's going to happen to us, sort of thing. The composition is loosely based on a photograph I got somewhere of an atomic explosion. So, but you'll see the nice angel here is bending down. He's banging a handful of burning coals to this chap down here, who is a scholar, as you can tell from the inkhorn on his belt. And I think the idea is that he's reaching down a handful of divine fire and instructing him to go and set light to Llandilo with it. The other hand, the idea that if we can like fire up a load of divine fervour in people so that they turn firmly to the paths of righteousness, then you know we won't get this trampling all over us. On the other hand, if you thought it was like an illustration of Ezekiel 10 with Llandilo standing in for Jerusalem, you'd probably find that would fit too. So I had a party many years ago down the Graig where I unveiled this, and I invited all the worthies of Llandilo to it. Nobody passed any comment on the painting though. Anyway, moving on to the next painting here. this is us having a bonfire night party, which we used to do quite frequently.
A few people have been to it, I think, because they're here.
I haven't done it for a few years now. When the kids used to do it, I used to make a big event of it. Actually, our son, he had a Northern Irish girlfriend one time, and she came to it, and she was amazed. She said, "Oh, I didn't know you could do private ones. I thought you only could do public ones." But, and November the 1st, or probably November the 5th will do, was originally the Celtic New Year. Celtic Year starts with winter, starts with darkness, and ends up with the light. So this is this is celebrating Celtic New Year, and the idea is that New Year, the guy on the bonfire carries away our sins during the past year and is consumed by the flames as a punishment for our sins that he's voluntarily taken upon him. So that we can all start the new year with like a breathe of sigh and go, phew, nobody remembers I did that, and start with a clear conscience because the good old guys sorted it out for us. And this is Satan in the form of a ram-headed serpent sneaking away from the heat, who's driven out of the fire.
So why does it, the serpent has the head of a ram?
Yeah, the ram-headed serpent. Yeah.
But is that a symbol? Or
yeah, it's a well-known Celtic symbol and other symbols as well.
Okay.
And yes, actually, this looks very like my mum, as a matter of fact. Well, not now, but then. And but then on the other hand, this is this would have been in the scene. This would have been me here, like stoking up the fire and making sure the guy didn't fall off. But anyway, if you wanted to see it as a traditional crucifixion composition, you could too. So, as I say in the note, please note the bread, the wine, and the coffee. Right. I don't quite know where to go from there. We've done those ones. Oh yeah, go over here.
No, that's...
Right.
Is that ours?
Yeah.
This is an illustration of a celebrated passage in Peredur York's son, out of the Mabinogion. I think Matthew Arnold probably drew attention to this particular excerpt. It's quite involved. I won't sort of tell you the whole story, but the basis is it's the Red River, which is like modelled on the River Towy. It goes in a flood, big spade. It goes that colour. It's the old red sandstone coming down from the top of the Brecon Beacons, turns it red like that. But it's the boundary between this world and other world. But the questing hero, who represents the human being, is presented with three choices. In Christian law, of course, you've got two choices, haven't you? You can either take the broad and easy path, or the straight and narrow. But in the Celtic world, of course, everything's in three. So you've got three choices. You can either go to the dark city with the black sheep, or you can go to this is the head of Otherworld here. So you can either go to the head of Otherworld's right hand, to the head of Otherworld's mansion, where there's an eternal feast going on, and he'll be looked after by the head of Otherworld's wife over here, is waiting to welcome him. Or, and you can just kind of have an easy time there forever and in perpetuity. Or else he can struggle up here to the high mountain to confront the troll who lives in this cave and who keeps killing people, which he does, of course, and he confronts the troll and kills the troll and he comes back. So it's like the three paths, moral paths, you can take in life. You can either go to the dark side, or if you find enlightenment, you can just like sit back and say, phew, thank goodness I've got here, this is nice, I'll just live my life like this. Or you can, having found enlightenment, you can then return to the troubles and tribulations of everyday life and like exert yourself to use the enlightenment you've found for the benefit of your fellow human beings. I should point out here, this green dawn is it's a famous feature of Dyfed. The Dyfed green dawn is a known phenomenon that various Welsh bards have remarked upon. So Right, that's enough of that one. What else have we got over here then? Oh yeah, I've got it up the other end now.
We have, yes.
Am I going on too long, Charlotte?
No, not at all. No, no, it's good.
And this is a picture of Carmarthen, you know, the lady in the lake story. And here's the lady in the shape of a swastika with her 3 children returning to the lake. I don't know if you know the story, but this is a fairy from the other world who's married a mortal human being on condition that he doesn't suffer 3 causeless blows. So, you know, I don't know how many wives there are who've suffered 3 causeless blows. Oh, I didn't ask it. But anyway, she's had enough and she's going back to her dad, who lives under the lake. This is an actual sort of formalised landscape picture of Van Heer and Llyn Van Val here. This is the surface of the lake, the gold. And she's running back to the lake. And under the lake, the other world under the lake, this is her father waiting to welcome her back. On the back of his throne, you can actually see the deer-headed Merlin motif. And he's looking out over the same view of Gwynfer that you've got in that one over there. Oh, the reason I keep picking this view, actually, I didn't mention that as looking at that, is that we used to live on the other side of the Black Mountain in Rosamond near Carmarthen. And there, the Glamorgan side, the Glamorgan people, they had this kind of superstitious awe of the other side of the Black Mountain. They called it, that's the country. But in their eyes, it was a kind of, that was otherworld, that was kind of the real Wales, real true Welsh people went when they died, you know, they went to a lard. It was a kind of fairyland, so that's why I use it as that symbol. And here you've got, up the top corner there, because she was from Otherworld, he's actually married a girl from Otherworld, she brought all kind of Otherworld blessings with her, which turned out to be, you know, affluence in this world, and so she's taken her property back with her. She goes, all the farm animals are following her back under the lake, and they're going over a hill, which as it happens, and nothing to do with the story, has got sleeping King Arthur in it, who's just waiting for the call, you know. But it's not really relevant to the picture. And then coming up here, up the boggy, ugly, horrible mountain, you've got the lady's husband with his stick and the 3 causeless blows, and with him is his blue merle sheepdog, which, like all true members of the breed, has got 1 blue eye and 1 brown eye. So that's Llyn moving round to here, then we've got this is Tylo. It's an icon. You can kiss it if you want. That's 6th century Llandilo behind it. He's ringing a bell which he received from the Patriarch of Jerusalem. The life of Tylo goes to great pains to point out that he's not actually subject, and the Celtic Church is not, the Welsh Church is not actually subject and subservient to Rome. It only owes allegiance to Jerusalem. So he gets ordained and given that bell by the Patriarch of Jerusalem. And he's ringing the bell because he's calling us all to pay attention, to heed to our spiritual position, you know, and the condition of our soul. And in his other hand, he's holding out the apples of eternal life, the russet apples, imported from the trees of Avalon, you know, the otherworld island where the apples grow that the people in Otherworld eat to keep living eternally. And at his feet is the spring which in his life he's reported to have caused to spring from the ground, running with white wine. So that's white wine in it. That's why it's that strange yellow colour. And of course, some people say that is the well in Church Street opposite Val's house. So there we go. There's Val. Yeah, right. And I'm sure you've drunk that well, haven't you, Val?
Oh, regularly.
Right, there. It's not white wine now, though, is it?
It's very good.
Right. Okay. And he's this here is a this Cromlech is, there's a town in Brittany called Longdelu, and at this town, that Cromlech is from that town, and we're just outside it, and the local name for it is Tilu, which means Stylo's house. Although, as Ken pointed out, it's obviously Neolithic and thousands of years older, but nonetheless the name is associated with the cromlech. Over here, we've got this pillar cross. The head of the cross is the one in Llandilo Church, which is believed to have come from Tylo's pillar cross in Llandilo. They found it when they were renovating the church in like 1850 or something, but the workmen said, oh God, this, I can't raise it, it's too heavy, so they chucked it down in the rubble in the basement under the church. But the head they kept the head because they could break that off easily, so such is Welsh culture. There you go. But the shaft of this cross is actually taken from Tylo's pillar stone in Penallyn near Tenby, which is where he was born, where he came from. The two deer are his helpers. One, the spiritual helper, the white hart is his spiritual helper, and the brown deer is his temporal helper. In Bresson tradition, Tylo's always associated with deer. He's in Bresson themes, he's always portrayed as riding on deer. And so in this way he kind of connects up with Merlin, the spirit of Britain. He's carried by the spirit of Britain, as it were. So the sun up there, well, Tylo marked a new age of spiritual enlightenment in Wales. They were Christian already, actually. Wales was Britain was part of the Roman Empire, and after 383 it was illegal not to be Christian in the Roman Empire. So, but Tylo and Dewi and those brought in a kind of revival, strong revival.
Can you say anything about the Ogham?
Oh yeah, and then at the bottom, Tylo's real name was actually Elizabenzig, but the Celtic saints, they didn't believe in sort of pretentious names, so they like us today, they shortened their long Celtic names down to little short names. So Tylo is T, which means yours. So your Elo. So it's a short form of Aelith. And then there's the same name in Ogham on the other side. There's like 40 or 50 Ogham stones in Dyfed. Ogham was a script used by the early Irish. Wales was governed and controlled by Ireland, by the Irish until about 600 or 700. They got a strong Irish presence in early Wales. Over here, and this is a painted lady, butterfly, because I felt the symmetry needed to be broken up a bit. Over here we got, this is actually a scene of a well-known Llandilo landmark. It's painted from life. I was in the churchyard painting that. That no entry is actually there. But I thought it was rather sort of redolent of, well, it was like the Towy Valley behind was like a kind of Garden of Eden, which in our kind of modern situation, globalised 21st century situation, we can't re-enter, we've kind of fallen from. And so the Archangel Michael is there with a flaming sword, like he was at the gate of the Garden of Eden to stop Adam's lot getting back in again. So we're kind of excluded from the no entry. The no entry is still there today, of course it's bilingual these days, it's a Dimnedia, no entry. Yeah, I was sitting in the churchyard, on the corner of the churchyard painting that. Right, I think I'm just about done everything. Oh no,
It's a wild Merlin.
oh yeah, I'll come back to that in a minute actually, I'll just,
yeah.
two more to go, but 2 more to go. Oh yeah, just
3 more.
several more actually. Just quickly. This is called Flowers from the Co-op, and anybody that's bought flowers from the Co-op will recognise that bunch. And this is an illustration of the bottom of my garden as it was many years ago, and as it said on the verb here. This is actually a little grey Fergie tractor that I had a tarpaulin over at the time, and which I sold to this man here.
Howard, yeah.
So nothing more to remark about that really. Then this is a poem out of the Book of Taliesin, page 57 out of the Book of Taliesin, about Irian. Irian, who lived about 570, something like that. He was the he was like High King of Britain at that time. He was the best military hope. there was a load of immigrants from Denmark had started settling in Northumberland, called the Engel, and they'd succeeded in 540 in like rebelling and conquering the kingdom of Brunei, which was actually Northumberland in those days, from the British. And so the British in the West faced this problem, and Irian was like remarkably militarily successful against them. And at the height of his triumph, when he was on the edge of like getting rid of the immigrant population for good, he was assassinated by somebody who was jealous of his position, wanted his position. The result was that the Engel then exploded out across the north and west Britain and over the next 50 years unstoppably, and in the year 626, under their King Edwin, they founded the Kingdom of Engelland. So, you know, had Irian not been assassinated, things might be different. But, anyway, so this is a translation of the poem here. I mean, this is, you know, some of the oldest poetry in the Welsh language. And so you can see the value system being applied to this guy. You know, he's generous. He's sort of, the taxes he takes, they go back in benefit. He's a socialist. You know, he's militarily successful, not like Blair, and you know, various other things that the guys obviously. One might note here, it says, it's normal for there to be submissiveness around him, around a pugnacious mind. You didn't cross him because, you know, you'd have a problem if you crossed him. Around him submissiveness and a multitude of riches, you know, so he was like, could dole out gold to all those people who supported him. Anyway, I'll leave you the judge on that side. And lastly, up here, and up here, I've so far been talking about like Merlin, the tutelary spirit of the island of Britain, the Green Man, if you will. You know, the spiritual embodiment of the island itself, and the spiritual power of its landscape. You know, you walk in the woods. You walk in the sort of woods, like that picture over there, and you feel the presence of the spirit. You know, and it's that spirit that's like communing with you. But this here is the actual traditional Welsh version of Merlin. The Welsh story of Merlin, he was a bard of a king called Gwenddolin, about 570, and there was a massive battle, an internecine battle between the British kings. It was to do with the foundation of Cymru as such, as a matter of fact, and his master was against Cymru, as a matter of fact. But anyway, his master lost the battle, his master was killed, all he decided to be killed, and he ran into the forest of Caledon as a fugitive, and as his enemy had been successful at triumph, he never dared come out again, so he spent 50 years running in the forest and became feral, no fire, no clothes, just running with the wild beasts. And he had a pet pig, which he slept with at night to keep warm, and he kept alive by eating the apples off this fabulous apple tree, which I presume was grown from a pip of another world apple, like we see here. And there's the literature about him that talks about his spring, the famous spring of Galabes, where I presume he looked in the spring and he could see like a fairer reality. He went mad, he was mad. But why they remember him is because he wrote some poetry, some prophetic poetry which still exists. And in the Middle Ages, Merlin's poetry about the future course and destiny of Britain, which to them meant Wales, was what powered them and gave them and kept their morale up in their struggle against the Normans. And you know, he wrote it when he was mad. So he's chasing this bird here. This bird is like spiritual insight or bardic inspiration or the voice of the spirit. So he's like all human beings. He's got this is the human. Merlin represents the human soul in the human existential dilemma, running mad through the woods. Got to sleep with this uncomfortable bedfellow, the body, but at the same time chasing after this elusive but sweet voice, the voice of the spirit. So it's, you know, it's the human condition. Actually, I have in the past thought of running a course of lectures studying the 7 excellent poems of Carmarthen, the poetry of Carmarthen. It might be nice if there was any like interest or support in that. I might still do that. But okay, that's it. That's what these pictures are about.
Thanks, Tim. That's great.